Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into the world of green industries.
Ooh, very timely.
It is. We'll be looking at sustainable practices, why this sector is becoming so crucial, and the really cool ways education is shaping things up.
Yeah, the skills gap is a big one we need to address.
Exactly. And we've got some great sources to help us unpack all of this. We've got excerpts from Green Industries, EU and South Mediterranean perspectives.
Oh, nice, a regional focus.
Yeah. And we'll also be looking at two reports, hintsgamification.pdf.
Gamification. Interesting.
I know, right? And hintsprinciplesingreenindustries.pdf.
This is going to be a good one. I can already tell.
So we'll be tackling what makes an industry green, why should anyone care, and how are the EU and the South Mediterranean approaching things. I was reading that there's a solar plant in Morocco, so massive, it's actually visible from space.
Wow, seriously.
Yeah, pretty wild, huh? We'll get into that a bit later, but first...
Back to basics.
Back to basics, exactly. What is it about this whole green industry thing that's got everyone buzzing?
Well, it's more than just being, eco-friendly. It's about really rethinking how we do business to create a sustainable future for everyone, not just profits.
Absolutely. And the source material actually defines green industries as those that, and I'm quoting here, minimize environmental impact, promote resource efficiency, and foster innovation in sustainable practices.
So tackling the big challenges head on.
Exactly. It's not just a fad. These industries are looking at the long game.
Right, like climate change and resource depletion. We're talking about solutions, not just Band-Aids.
So can we simplify it and say it's all about making sure we have economic growth without, well, destroying the planet?
Absolutely. The vision is to transition to these low-carbon, resource-efficient systems that actually create social and economic benefits, too, not just environmental ones.
And that seems to connect directly with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, the ones on industry, innovation, and responsible consumption.
It highlights that sustainability is multifaceted.
Multifaceted, love that.
Yeah. We can't just focus on protecting the environment. We have to consider the economic and social sides, too.
Our briefing document actually lists a bunch of pretty compelling advantages to green industries. Not only do they create those localized economic opportunities and reduce our reliance on fossil fuels, but they also lead to job creation.
Oh, absolutely. Think about all the new jobs coming up in sectors like clean energy, waste management, sustainable manufacturing, the list goes on.
It's amazing. You reduce your impact on the planet, A&D create jobs. Win-win.
Win-win for sure.
And it even mentions things like improved living standards and better air quality.
Well, everyone likes to breathe easier, right?
Exactly. Now let's shift gears a bit and look at what's actually happening in different regions. The source we're looking at compares the EU and the South Mediterranean's approach to developing these green industries. And it's fascinating to see how their strategies differ.
Right. The EU, with its history of environmental policies and the European Green Deal, wants to hit carbon neutrality by 2050. They're big on renewables, sustainable manufacturing, the whole circular economy thing.
They're really going all in on those offshore wind farms and solar technology. They even have this system for pricing carbon emissions to encourage businesses to, go green.
It's a big push. While the South Mediterranean is still, the earlier stages, they're focusing on diversifying their economies through renewable energy projects, especially where they've got plenty of sun and wind. And that's where those impressive projects like that Norse solar plant in Morocco come in.
I know. It's incredible how they're leveraging those natural resources.
That's
It's not always a walk in the park, right? Every big transformation has its hurdles.
Oh, for sure.
One of the biggest challenges our source highlights is the financial barrier. Limited access to green financing and foreign direct investment, especially in the South Mediterranean, is a real roadblock.
Yeah, those upfront costs for green projects can be pretty daunting. Without the funds, it's like trying to build a house without, bricks.
It all starts with the foundation.
Exactly. And even when you have the money, there are still those regulatory and policy gaps to think about.
You're right. Inconsistent frameworks, fragmented regulations, those implementation delays. It all adds up.
It's like trying to navigate a maze blindfolded.
A maze blindfolded, I like that.
It's not easy.
And then there's the whole skills mismatch issue.
Oh, yeah, big one.
The source talks about how there's a real shortage of skilled labor in these green technologies, particularly in the South Mediterranean.
This is where education really comes into play. We need to equip people with the right knowledge and skills to actually build and support these industries.
And if we don't have the skilled workforce, this whole transition is going to be that much harder.
For sure. It's a bottleneck.
A bottleneck, yeah. And unfortunately, it doesn't stop there. Socioeconomic inequalities also play a major role.
Right. We can't forget about that.
We need to make sure this transition benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Absolutely. Inclusivity is key.
Okay, so lots of challenges, but there's also this really interesting solution that hintsgamification.pdf brings up.
Okay, this is the one I've been waiting for. Gamification. Tell me more.
Yeah. It's about using games to tackle the skills gap in the green industry.
Games. You mean like video games?
Not just video games, but that's definitely part of it. It's all about taking game mechanics, like points, levels, challenges, and applying them to education and training in this sector. Imagine learning about solar panel installation by actually building a virtual one.
Oh, wow. In a virtual reality environment. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. This isn't just some futuristic idea either. It's already happening.
Really? Like where?
Well, the report highlights some fascinating cases. There's one in Egypt where they're using virtual lab simulations for medical training.
What? So they can practice surgical techniques without, any actual risk.
Exactly. Pretty amazing, huh?
That's wild. What other applications are out there?
Well, there's one in Albania where they're using games to teach those technical skills needed for installing and maintaining solar panels.
Smart. Especially with that huge Caravasta solar park they're building.
Exactly. And get this, Siemens, that global leader in, digital industries, they're using gamification in their own training programs to help employees learn about complex things like automation and robotics.
So they're bridging the gap between theory and practice.
Exactly. So we've seen how this works on a regional level, but it makes you think.
About the bigger picture.
Yeah, could the EU and the South Mediterranean work together, share those innovations and expertise?
That's a great question. And actually, both green industries, EU and South Mediterranean perspectives and Entity's principles in greenindustries.pdf touch on that.
They do.
They do. Both highlight the massive potential for collaboration.
There are so many possibilities. Think about sharing those renewable energy technologies. The EU has the expertise, and the South Mediterranean has the resources. It's a perfect match.
It's all about leveraging each region's strengths.
Right. And it goes beyond just tech, too. They could share knowledge through joint training programs, exchange, best practices in education, even facilitate the movement of skilled workers between the regions.
Imagine that, a network of collaboration where knowledge and expertise just flows freely.
It'd be incredible. And let's not forget about green financing and investments. The EU's got these well-established green financing mechanisms that could be super valuable for projects in the South Mediterranean.
Yeah, just sharing knowledge about policies that incentivize those green investments would be huge.
The source even talks about developing risk-sharing models to attract more foreign direct investment in the South Mediterranean.
Mitigate the risk, make it more appealing. Smart move.
And they could even collaborate on things like, the circular economy and waste management.
Oh, for sure. Shared recycling facilities, pilot programs, even a shared database to optimize resource use.
It's all connected.
It is. And again, it's not just environmental benefits. We're talking huge economic potential, too.
Huge. It seems like there's so much win-win potential here.
Totally. The EU benefits from the South Mediterranean's resources, and they gain from the EU's expertise and financial resources.
It's a partnership that could really shake things up.
It really could.
So we've covered a lot already: what green industries are, why they're important, how they can help us tackle those big global challenges.
We've looked at the EU and the South Mediterranean, their approaches, their opportunities, their struggles.
And even dived into that fascinating world of gamification.
And that brings us to the end of part 1 of our deep dive.
But don't go anywhere. We've got lots more to explore, so make sure to tune in for part 2.
It's going to be a good one. Welcome back to our deep dive into green industries. Last time we explored the definition and vision of green industries.
Right, those different approaches in the EU and the South Mediterranean.
And that whole gamification thing.
Oh yeah, gamification. That was super interesting.
So are you ready to see how these ideas are actually playing out, like in the real world?
Absolutely. Let's get into some specific examples.
Okay, let's start with the EU. They've really been at the forefront of this whole green industrial development.
And they've got some seriously impressive projects going on.
One that really stands out is that North Sea Wind Power Hub.
Oh yeah, I read about that.
It's this ambitious plan to create this massive, interconnected offshore wind power system. Imagine a whole network of wind farms all working together, providing clean energy for millions of homes.
Wow, that's a game changer.
It is. It's a great example of how the EU is using their tech expertise and that collaborative spirit to build, a sustainable energy future.
And it's not just wind power they're focused on, right?
No, not at all. They're also investing heavily in solar energy, with countries like Spain and Germany leading the way.
Germany's got that energy Wende thing going on.
Yeah, the energy event. It's their comprehensive energy transition policy,
Yeah.
aiming to completely shift away from fossil fuels and towards renewables.
They're not messing around.
Not at all. And their sustainability goals go beyond energy, too. They're pushing for a circular economy.
Right, where resources are used and reused as much as possible.
Exactly. The EU's Circular Economy Action Plan is designed to reduce waste, make products more recyclable, and create those closed-loop systems. It's a holistic approach, recognizing we need to rethink how we produce and consume.
Okay, so the EU is clearly making big moves. What about the South Mediterranean? They're a bit earlier in their green transition, right?
They are, but there are some exciting things happening there, too. Remember that solar plant in Morocco we talked about?
The one visible from space?
That one. Morocco's Noor solar plant is one of the largest concentrated solar power plants in the world.
It's mind-blowing.
It is. It's a testament to their commitment to renewable energy, and it's helped them become a leader in the field.
And it's not just about clean energy, right? The Noor solar plant has created thousands of jobs and boosted the local economy.
Exactly. It's a perfect example of how green industries can drive sustainable development, benefiting both the environment and the local community.
A perfect example for sure, and Morocco's not alone in this. Egypt's got that Benban solar park, another massive installation.
It seems like the South Mediterranean is really tapping into that solar potential.
All that sunshine, gotta use it. And it's not just solar either, they're exploring wind energy as well.
Oh, right, like that Tafila wind farm in Jordan.
Exactly. It's a huge step towards Jordan's goal of hitting 50% renewable energy by 2030.
It's inspiring to see these countries taking such big steps.
So we've seen some great examples of what's happening on the ground. Now let's zoom out a bit and look at the policies and frameworks shaping all of this.
The bigger picture.
Yeah. The EU's been leading the charge with comprehensive policies designed to support green industries. The European Green Deal is a prime example.
Right, that's the one with the goal of making Europe climate neutral by 2050.
2050, that's ambitious.
It is, and it covers so much, from clean energy and sustainable transport to green buildings and biodiversity protection.
It's massive. It's like they're trying to reshape Europe's entire economy and society.
And they're putting their money where their mouth is, with big investments in green tech and infrastructure.
And then there's the EU emissions trading system, the ETS.
Oh, yeah, that's the one that basically puts a price on carbon emissions.
It's a way to encourage companies to reduce their environmental impact. Kind of like a financial incentive to go green?
Exactly. And they also have those regulations to promote resource efficiency and reduce waste, like that Circular Economy Action Plan.
Right, setting targets for recycling, reducing waste, and using more sustainable materials.
It's all about moving away from that take, make, dispose model.
Towards a circular economy.
A circular economy, exactly.
Now, what about the South Mediterranean? Are they as advanced in their policy development?
They're not as advanced as the EU, but they're making progress. Many countries have their own national renewable energy strategies.
They do.
They do. They set targets for boosting renewables in their energy mix.
Like Egypt wanting to generate 42% of its electricity from renewable sources by 2035.
Exactly. Ambitious, but considering their solar and wind resources, it's definitely achievable.
And they're not just setting targets, they're putting policies in place to attract investment in these renewable energy projects.
Things like tax breaks and feed-in tariffs.
Creating a more favorable environment for green businesses.
For sure. And they're working on policies to promote sustainable manufacturing and reduce waste.
Like Tunisia's national waste management strategy.
Right, aiming to reduce landfill waste and boost recycling. It's all about moving towards that circular economy.
It's clear both the EU and the South Mediterranean are taking action on this.
Definitely. They might be at different points, but there's a lot of potential for them to share knowledge, learn from each other's experiences, even collaborate.
Collaboration is key.
It is.
Now, there's one aspect of this whole green industrial policy we haven't really touched on yet, and it's a big one.
What's that?
Green financing.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
It's all about finding the money, the investments, loans, grants to support these green industries.
So we're talking about money specifically for environmentally sustainable projects.
Exactly. This transition to a green economy needs a lot of money, especially for those large-scale renewable energy installations.
Those can be pretty expensive up front.
They can be. So how does this green financing actually work?
Well, it's a whole ecosystem of players, governments, development banks, commercial banks, investors. even philanthropic organizations. Everyone brings something to the table.
So it's a team effort.
It is. Governments set the policies, provide incentives for green investments like tax breaks for companies investing in renewables, or subsidies to make green tech more affordable.
Okay, makes sense. What about those development banks?
Development banks like the World Bank and the European Investment Bank are major players. They have the resources and expertise to support those large-scale projects, especially in developing countries.
So providing loans and grants to make these big projects possible.
Exactly. And even commercial banks are getting involved, offering green loans, green bonds, things like that.
So the financial sector is finally taking sustainability seriously.
It seems that way. And investors are increasingly interested in sustainable investments. They see the potential for financial returns and positive impact.
It's a win-win.
It is. And we can't forget about philanthropic organizations. They often provide grants and funding for those innovative green projects that might not get traditional funding.
So there's a whole range of actors involved.
A whole range.
And they're all working together to make this happen.
Exactly. It's complex, but essential for driving this whole transition.
Okay, so lots of actors, but what about the actual mechanisms? How are these projects actually getting funded? You mentioned green bonds earlier.
Right. Green bonds are like a type of debt security where the funds are specifically for projects with environmental benefits.
So if I invest in a green bond, I'm lending money to finance a project like a renewable energy installation.
Or a green building, yeah.
Yeah.
And they've become really popular recently.
And then there are all those feed-in tariffs.
Right, those are interesting. Remind me how those work again.
Basically, it's a guaranteed fixed price for renewable electricity fed into the grid. So if you've got solar panels on your roof, you can sell that electricity back to the grid at a set price. Makes investing in renewables more attractive.
I see. So you have a reliable income stream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are other mechanisms, too, like green loans from banks with lower interest rates for sustainable projects.
There's like a reward for going green.
Right. And then there are green grants from governments or philanthropic organizations for those innovative projects that need a little extra boost.
So many options.
It depends on the project, the country, the whole policy environment.
It's a toolbox.
The toolbox, exactly. But even with all these options, there must be some challenges.
Oh, there are definitely challenges.
Like what?
Well, one of the biggest is just agreeing on what qualifies as a green investment. There's no universal definition.
So one investor might see a project as green and another might not.
Exactly. That lack of clear standards makes investors nervous.
They want to make sure their money is actually going towards something sustainable.
Right, it's about trust and transparency.
So how do we fix that?
Well, they're working on creating taxonomies. Basically, systems for classifying which activities and projects can be considered green.
Like a rule book.
Yeah, like a rule book. And they're also developing frameworks for measuring and reporting the environmental impact of those investments.
So investors can see the real impact.
Exactly. Transparency is key.
Okay, so standardization is one challenge. What else?
Well, some investors just see green investments as riskier than traditional investments.
But shouldn't they be less risky in the long run? I mean, we are moving towards a greener economy.
In theory, yes. But many green technologies are still relatively new, haven't been proven on a large scale.
So there's a fear they might not be commercially viable.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of policy uncertainty.
Oh, yeah. Governments can change the rules of the game.
They can, and that makes investors nervous. If a government suddenly cuts subsidies for renewable energy, that's a big problem.
So how do we address that?
Well, we need more data and evidence on the financial performance of these green investments.
Show me the money.
Exactly. And we need risk mitigation tools like guarantees and insurance products specifically for green investments.
Makes sense. So green financing, it's a work in progress.
It is, but there are some huge opportunities on the horizon.
Like what?
Well, think about the scale of the climate challenge. Tackling that is going to take trillions of dollars in investments.
Trillions.
Trillions. And that creates a massive opportunity for green financing.
So the need to fight climate change will drive demand for these investments.
Exactly. And that demand is only going to grow. Plus, there's the growing consumer demand for sustainable products and services.
People want to make a difference with their wallets.
They do. And that creates a huge market opportunity for companies that are, doing good.
And more opportunities for green financing.
It's all connected.
It really is.
So we've seen some great examples of green industry initiatives, both in the EU and the South Mediterranean.
We've looked at the policies, the frameworks, and dove deep into green financing.
And it's clear that this shift to a green economy is happening.
It's not a question of if but when?
And green financing is going to play a key role in making it a reality.
There are challenges, but the opportunities are huge.
Absolutely. By working together, governments, businesses, investors, we can create a more sustainable and prosperous future for everyone.
And welcome back to the deep dive. In the last two parts, we've really journeyed through the world of green industries.
We have, from definitions and visions to real-world examples in the EU and South Mediterranean.
And we even tackled those policies, frameworks, and, green financing.
A crucial piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. So for this final part, let's look ahead. What's coming up next for these green technologies?
And what skills and knowledge will people need to actually thrive in this sector? Because it's moving fast.
It is. It feels like we're on the verge of some big breakthroughs.
It's an exciting time to be involved in green industries for sure.
So where do you see the biggest potential for, game-changing advancements? What's got you excited?
Well, renewable energy is a big one. Solar and wind power have come a long way, but
There's still room to grow.
yeah, definitely. Energy storage, for example.
Being able to store all that clean energy.
Exactly. Finding efficient and cost-effective ways to store it is key to making renewable energy more reliable.
So capturing solar energy during the day and using it at night, no problem.
Exactly. And there are some really promising technologies being developed right now.
Like what?
Well, there are those advanced batteries, pumped hydro storage, even hydrogen fuel cells.
You mentioned hydrogen. Everyone's talking about green hydrogen these days.
Right. Green hydrogen is produced using renewable energy sources, so it's a clean and sustainable fuel.
And you can use it for pretty much anything, right? Transportation, industry.
Even to generate electricity, it's super versatile.
It's like the fuel of the future.
It is. But moving beyond just energy, sustainable manufacturing is another area that's evolving rapidly.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, we're seeing amazing advancements in 3D printing, for example. Much more precise and efficient use of materials.
3D printing is everywhere these days.
It really is. And then there are digital twins.
Digital twins, what are those?
So imagine a virtual representation of a physical system, like a...
Like a virtual copy.
Yeah. It can be used to optimize processes, reduce waste, improve efficiency in all kinds of industries.
Manufacturing, agriculture, even city planning.
Exactly. You can simulate and analyze different scenarios to figure out the most sustainable approach.
So we can use these digital models to basically test things out before we do them in the real world.
Precisely. It's like a virtual testing ground.
Very cool. And what about the circular economy? We touched on that before, but are there any specific technologies driving it forward?
The circular economy is definitely an area ripe for innovation. We're talking advanced recycling technologies that can turn waste into valuable resources.
So instead of throwing things away, we're actually reusing them.
Exactly. Or even developing materials specifically designed to be easily disassembled and reused. It's all about minimizing waste.
That's incredible. So with all these green technologies popping up, what skills will people need to have to succeed in this field, I mean?
It's a great question. This green economy is going to create tons of new jobs, but those jobs will require a specific skill set.
So what should people be focusing on?
Well, obviously, we'll need engineers, scientists, technicians who are experts in renewable energy, sustainable manufacturing, all those core green technologies we've been talking about.
Right, the technical stuff.
But it's not just about technical expertise. We also need people who can connect those technologies with other fields.
Okay, like who?
Well, think about data analysts who can make sense of all the data from smart grids and green infrastructure, policy experts who can develop and implement regulations.
So it's about the big picture, too.
Yeah, and communication and collaboration skills will be super important. This is a global effort.
We need people who can work across cultures, explain complex ideas, build those strong partnerships.
Exactly. And with technology evolving so quickly, the ability to learn new things, to adapt, that's crucial.
Always learning, always growing.
Lifelong learning is key.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this?
Green industries aren't just about protecting the environment. They're about creating a better future for everyone, a more sustainable, equitable, and prosperous future. It's about rethinking how we do things.
And taking action. The choices we make now will shape the world of tomorrow.
Exactly.
So if someone's inspired to learn more, maybe even explore a career in this field, where should they start?
Oh, there's so many great resources out there. Start by researching different technologies, look into online courses, connect with organizations working in this space. You'll be amazed by what you find.
We've only just scratched the surface today, but hopefully this deep dive has sparked your curiosity.
It's a fascinating field.
It is. The future is what we make it, and I hope we make it green.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring and keep learning.
To know more about our project, please visit our website and follow us on social media. This project is funded by the European Union.